Hi guys! I mentioned in the last video that I made, which was a short tarot video on it was the Two of Swords, I think. I mentioned that I've been having some thoughts on intuition and how sometimes there may actually be two different paths that you could take, both of which might actually be following your intuition at this time. And how sometimes you just need to, make a choice and kind of go with that, at least for the moment. And I said I would make another video about this because it's been something that I've been thinking about quite a lot for a few weeks, and I keep kind of thinking, oh, I'll make a video about that, but then I keep thinking, oh no, I'm still not exactly sure where I stand on it. But I decided I'd just go ahead and share with you the thoughts I've been having up until now. Excuse me if my voice is a bit funny. I've had a bit of a cold on and off, nothing major, but and it's morning time and I haven't been talking yet today. So first of all, intuition, it's a bit of a murky word for me. Sometimes I get a bit tangled up in trying to decide with what I think intuition actually is, what part of me it is that's doing the talking when it's my intuition talking, and that kind of thing, and what it really means to follow your intuition. And I suppose for me, primarily, my major idea about intuition is that it is the part of you that will send you in the right direction for you now at this moment in time. It is the part of you that is best kind of tapped into your true deep emotions, how you are really responding to things, to your relationships, to your experiences, to your life situation, and how things are actually really truly, whether or not they're actually making you happy, and what will make you happy, and what it is that you're suppressing and not following, even though really deep down you want to. So I suppose in a way it's a mechanism by which to override any ego-based fears or restrictions that you might be placing on yourself unconsciously, that you may in fact be kind of pushing yourself down a certain path, thinking, because you consciously are thinking, yeah, this is what's going to make me happy, or this is making me happy. But if your intuition isn't aligned with that, if you're not listening to your intuition at the same time, then you can end up just following certain paths or certain pattern thoughts and certain notions that your ego has built up, based on trying to keep you safe, trying to keep things normal, trying to avoid fear, trying to avoid change, all of which are things that the ego does, and are some of which are the things that the ego exists to do. So that's important to remember too, that your ego is always going to be trying to maintain the status quo. It's not going to really want to push out the boat very much, even if deep down you know that if you do push out that particular boat, you will be happier for it, and there is something that you're not following up on because of these fears, or because of just a pattern. I think sometimes we can just get stuck in a rut for no particular reason other than it's just difficult for us to find our way out of it. But then of course you have the problem that if you're thinking to yourself, well, if I listen to my intuition, I will do the things that are best for me, I will be my happiest, you're straight away putting an awful lot of pressure on yourself to be able to tell your intuitive voice from all the other voices in your head, without, sounding too crazy. And that can actually get quite overwhelming. And for me anyway, I'm a terrible overthinker. I overthink absolutely everything. I'm absolutely terrible for overanalyzing, and it's funny because journaling actually will often help me with this. It will actually help me stop, rather than being a tool for my overanalysis kit. Journaling will actually often help me put my thoughts down on paper and actually then stop thinking about them. But I have often found as well that journaling can become unhealthy for me, that it allows me to really overindulge with that overanalysis, overthinking kind of aspect of me. So obviously the problem with being the kind of person who overanalyzes or overthinks, who thinks too much in the future, who's constantly looking ahead, you're always kind of constantly trying to make decisions about what you should be doing in order to sort of be happiest. tomorrow or the next day or next week. And then, so I often find that I'm sort of constantly struggling to be sure that I'm following my intuition and that the paths that I'm currently following are actually the ones that are making me happiest and will make me happiest. And that's definitely problematic. And I found, I kind of realised recently that if you're overthinking things, if you're over-analysing, and if you're sort of, you know, writing out a big list of pros and cons, or if you just are battling with two contrasting feelings and you're going, which one is my intuition? And you're thinking, okay, I'm following my intuition because I've done all this thinking and I've hashed this out so many times and I've gone down this particular path and this seems to make sense. The truth is you're probably not following your intuition at that point at all because it's all conscious, it's all ego, it's all, you're probably just delving down and rummaging into the murky depths of your ego and fears and all that kind of muddy stuff. Because once you get to the point where you're trying to make decisions, then this isn't always the case, but once you get to the point, I think, where you're trying to make decisions based on hashing over things that have happened over the past weeks or months and analysing, you know, remembering little details about how your job made you feel this particular day and that particular week, and something that your boyfriend said to you 2 weeks ago, and you know, a particular conversation that you had with your friend. And once you're kind of building up almost this sort of case evidence to back up your point or to back up this decision that you're trying to decide if you want to make, I feel that as if you've just gone so far away from following your intuition that it's not even, never mind being in the driver's seat, it's not even in the car anymore. You've completely abandoned it. And that's where it gets problematic for me, because I find it impossible to make decisions or to take steps without doing all that kind of overthinking and over-analysis. And then I do get to a point where I feel like, well, my intuition set me in this direction, and this is the decision I've come up with as a result of that, so therefore this must be correct for me, even though it feels uncomfortable, it doesn't feel right, it feels scary, or not even just scary, but just wrong. There's something wrong about this decision or this this fear that I have. And I'm just kind of realising in the last couple of days that this is almost certainly not anything to do with my intuition whatsoever. Now, of course, like, your intuition can definitely bring up things that are uncomfortable, and I think that's the difficulty in being able to use your intuition to make decisions, is that sometimes it will bring up a decision that isn't easy for you to make. Sometimes it will make you think or make you decide, I do need to, like, you know, quit this job, end this friendship, end this relationship, and this is what's right for me. But I kind of feel as though if you're not at a point where you're able to make that decision calmly and with full knowledge and conviction that it's the right thing for you to do at this time, and that you feel fortified by it and strengthened by it, and you feel empowered by that decision, I think it's probably not the time to be making that decision. And maybe that's a bit of a broad sweeping statement, and I know that a lot of what I'm saying here is like really vague, and I'm not giving any specific details, because the things that I've been mulling over in my own head are things that I don't necessarily want to go into the details of. But yeah, I came to this realization that even if there is something that your intuition is trying to tell you, and there's probably going to be a decision that you're going to have to make at some point down the line, it's not always the right time to make that decision. And sometimes maybe your intuition doesn't even have the answer for you yet. That was a big one for me when I realised that your intuition isn't infallible, and it's not magical, and it doesn't necessarily always have the answers. I think it will probably eventually have an answer, and it probably has an answer that is the right one for now, or good enough for now, if you see what I mean. And sometimes maybe you just need to put that to one side and go away and just let your intuition, just let your unconscious, let your feelings, let everything just kind of mull over it unconsciously, without ruminating over it, and just make a decision for now and move forward with that. Something that you can be confident about, something that you feel comfortable with. Now, as I said, intuition can guide you in uncomfortable ways. Sometimes you do have to make uncomfortable choices, but I think there's a difference between a choice that is slightly uncomfortable because you're breaking out of a fear that has been restricting you, and a choice that is uncomfortable because you're just not actually sure that that choice is going to make you happy. And a lot of the time I think maybe it's true. Maybe you're not at a point where you can make that decision yet. So basically I feel as though your intuition and your deep self and all that stuff, like I said, like it's not infallible, it's not psychic in my personal opinion. It can't see every possible every future possibility all laid out in front of it. It's not like a magic 8-ball. And I think sometimes it can actually be giving you two conflicting options or two conflicting stories. To the point where not only will it not be giving you a really clear answer or a clear direction on one particular question, but it might actually be giving you two completely different stories. And I think this is actually quite genuine. And for a while I was really struggling with this and saying, well, how can my intuition be giving me two completely different feelings on something at different times? Surely one of them has to be correct. And then I thought, well, maybe not, because maybe a certain situation is really nourishing for you on one level. On one level, maybe, let's say a particular friendship. On one level, maybe in some aspects, it's really, really nourishing for you. This is a really special friendship for you that has been around for a long time. You've gone through a lot together. And maybe this person has certain traits, or you connect together in a way that you don't find with that many other people, and that is quite unique. And you enjoy spending time with that person, and you get a lot out of that friendship. Then on the other hand, maybe this person has particular traits or habits about, in this friendship, or that make you unhappy. Maybe you feel as though they disrespect you in certain ways. Maybe your ideas on how much you want to spend time together, how much you expect each other to share each other's lives and to connect with each other. Maybe that's not quite on a par. Maybe the other person likes to go off and hang around with about 3 other groups, but you're the kind of person who wants to see them like very frequently and spend a lot of time with them, and or whatever whatever that problem may be. Maybe that friend is depressed and you find it very difficult to deal with that. Maybe sometimes they are very negative and they have particular habits or trains of thought that you find really difficult to deal with, and that you find really brings you down, and that you feel sometimes as though you would be better off without them in your life, that they bring you down a lot, or that you find it very difficult to maintain that friendship for whatever reason. And sometimes you feel from a gut level, no, this person, I would be happier without this person in my life. So yeah, I really do think that, sure, a lot of the time one of those answers, like I am better off with this person in my life, I'm better off with this person out of my life, or the same with, say, a career, or a job, relationship, whatever it is, or even like a hobby, something that you haven't been doing much of recently, that you're trying to decide if you should be making more time for it in your life even though you're busy, or you should be making you shouldn't be sacrificing the things that you are doing at the moment in order to fit that in, that it will just make you more stressed. Things like that. It's kind of, a lot of the time maybe there is an answer, there is one particular, your intuition will give you kind of that gut instinct of, no, this is what's right for me. Say, either you do want to stay with that friendship because they nurture you more than they nurture you more than they disrespect you or bring you down or whatever, or maybe you get more out of that job than you probably would with any other job, so therefore or you get a lot out of it that you wouldn't get in another job that you're considering, and that you actually should stay with this one even though sometimes you feel as though you're not getting as much out of it as you could. Sometimes there will be a clear answer from your intuition. Sometimes you will sit down, you will spend time, you will think, you will just be silent and still and let that voice speak, and sometimes you will just know, and you will have that just gut feeling and be really sure, and like I said, just feel empowered and calm and sure about it. But other times I feel as though sometimes your intuition really does have two answers for you, and sometimes those two instincts are really coming from an equally deep and authentic place. And it'll just change from day to day or week to week. And maybe ultimately it will probably get to a point where you can stop having to ask yourself that question. You know, like with that friendship, you will probably get to a point where maybe things will pick up again, or maybe you will just get over a certain aspect of it in your own mind and decide that you can continue with that friendship and not have to worry about those aspects that were bothering you anymore. Or maybe you will reach a point where it's all just upsetting you too much, where you know, you just decide that you're not aligned anymore, that it's not clicking anymore, that you're holding on to it for the wrong reasons, that you're holding on to that friendship for old time's sake, and that the two of you are just not compatible anymore, and you will just have to let it go. But sometimes, you know, I feel as though you're actually just not there yet, that it's not clear enough yet in your own, even in your intuition, which way you should go, whether it's time to let something go or not. And I also think that we can sort of misassign certain intuitive desires. We can sort of assign them very specifically to one situation in our lives, and maybe they're not actually that specific as they seem, because if something comes up for you in the moment when you're at your job or when you're with that friend or with your partner, and that feeling kind of comes up in the moment, and whatever that feeling is that makes you think, oh, I need to get out of this job, I need to get out of this relationship, I need to get out of this country or move house or whatever, you know, move to the other side of the country. If that feeling comes up for you, you know, maybe a few times in a row in that particular situation, you kind of think, oh, I need to quit my job, this is what I need to do, this is what I need to do to be happy. This job isn't making me happy. If I quit this job and find another job or do something else to make money, I will be happier. But maybe actually what's coming up for you is just a more generalized kind of emotion that definitely needs to be acknowledged and needs to be worked into your life. But maybe it's actually not specific to that one part of your life. Maybe there isn't only one way to alleviate that problem within yourself. For example, a feeling like that, like a feeling where you feel the need for a change, or you feel like you need to get out of something, like you're stuck, like something isn't working, like you're feeling constricted, then maybe that's just a general need for more freedom in your life or more spontaneity, or you feel as you just need to express yourself more, either with the people that in your life or creatively, spiritually, however it is. And maybe that feeling is just sort of manifesting itself in these particular situations because it's being triggered, because something's happened that's making you frustrated, you know. Somebody in your job has said something unpleasant, or something that you're working on isn't working out for you, or it's boring, or whatever it may be, and it just triggers that deep feeling. But maybe there's actually a better way to work through that feeling and to incorporate it into your life, to incorporate whatever it is that you need into your life. And you just need to explore that a bit and try to figure out what the actual core feeling is. Is this really something that is about the person or the job or the place that you really think it's about? Or is it more something, I suppose, about yourself? About how, maybe it's something about the way that you're relating with the person rather than the way the person is relating to you, for example. Maybe the way that you, maybe you're not communicating with them in the way you wish you would, or maybe you're not, being expressive enough, or whatever, and this is making you feel as though there's something not quite right. But then maybe that's something that you need to go away yourself and figure out, well, why am I feeling that right now? Why am I feeling frustrated in that regard? And is this something that actually I should be just focusing on figuring out myself on my own time, without necessarily uprooting my whole life, or throwing away a friendship or a job or a relationship or a career path or whatever, you know, what have you. I think sometimes the intuitive answer, sometimes it is drastic, and sometimes, you know, you really do have to release certain things out of your life, and it will make you happier, and it is the right thing to do. But I think also if you go looking for those kind of things, if you just feel like you need change, if you feel like you're stagnating, I think sometimes you can end up just going looking for those kind of big changes in your life. I need something to change. Something isn't right. And sometimes the answer just isn't where you think it is. Yeah, so those are just some of the thoughts I've been having on intuition and answering your own questions and figuring out your desire. It's all been sort of... I really only started properly tapping into my intuition and becoming spiritually centered and all that kind of stuff in the last couple of years. I sort of wasn't even really aware that I wasn't listening to myself and following my desires and following, what I really wanted to do with myself and really listening to myself. I didn't even realise that I wasn't doing that until I started doing it, I suppose, until I picked up on one thing that I was sort of trying to suppress and ran with it. So it's still very much, it's something that I'm figuring out. And I go through weeks or months sometimes, especially if I'm doing shadow work or just sometimes out of nowhere, something will just bubble up and I kind of have to sit down and go, whoa, where is this coming from? What's going on with this? And the more I do this, the more I have to go through these times where I kind of feel as though I'm not sure of anything. Suddenly I feel as though, what am I doing? I thought I was following my intuition. I thought I was really tuned in to what I really want in life and what I really want to be doing. And suddenly I'm questioning everything. I'm absolutely everything. And I question it not only once, but like every day. Every day I wake up and I have to ask myself about every single thing in my life. Like, is this really what I want to be doing? Are these the people I really want to be spending time with? Is this the career path I really want to go down, etc., etc.? And that can get really exhausting. But luckily, it only sort of comes up. It's been coming up for me every couple of weeks or months that I will have a period like that, and then I just really do need to sit down and go, oh, what's happening? What's going on? And yeah, the more this happens, the more I realise that following your intuition and listening to your intuitive voice is, in a way, it's more complicated than you might think initially. For all the reasons that I've just outlined, it's not necessarily a quick fix or a definitive answer that's just waiting for you to find it. It can be more complicated than that, I think. And it's really easy, like I said, to sort of start overlaying it with all this junk from your conscious mind, from your ego, with, paranoia and, negative sort of cycles of thinking and that kind of thing. It's you can really go down a really negative and destructive sort of rabbit hole if you start trying to analyze yourself too much, I think. So yeah, it's definitely a work in progress, and I'm sort of trying to learn to step back after a while, to just, to work through certain things, to think about things for a while, to maybe draw a few tarot cards, do a bit of shadow work, do a bit of journaling, and then just, step away from it and just think, well, what is the decision that I need to make right now? Is there a decision that I need to make right now? And if there isn't, then I just say to myself, right, well, if there's nothing that I need to change right now about my life, then I am committing to it. I'm committing to those things, to those decisions that I've made previously up until now, and I'm committing to them until that point where I feel like my intuition is really truly stepping in and saying, okay, you need to go in another direction now, or there's another decision to be made here.